Good day and welcome to the Evening Review. I'm Ashley Smith, the news editor of Namibian Sun. Let's take a look at today's front page. Today's show, we've got quite a lengthy interview with Landless People's Movement leader, Bernadus Swartbooi. He sat down with Jemima Villegas and spoke, among others, about his recent war of words in Parliament with Labour Minister Utoni Nujoma.
Good evening, my name is Jemima Villegas from Namibian Sun. With me in the studio we have today the leader of the LPM, the Landless People's Movement, Mr. Bernadus Swartbooi. Thank you for being with us.
Good evening and thank you for having me here, Jemima.
Mr. Swartbooi, there's been a lot of developments taking place in the last few days. You have returned to Parliament as under a new banner this time.
Yeah.
And
we are very excited about it, I must say. We are excited. The sense of freedom and the sense of your own ability to determine your future is really good. But we have hard work to do. Anyway, I'm sorry, I disturbed you.
Of course, of course. So there was this commotion with the former land minister, Utoni Nujoma.
My good friend.
Yes, your good friend. We all know that. And then there has also been an incident, not really an incident, but people see it as an incident of you telling Ms. Doreen Sioka, the former gender minister, that you want to take it outside. Now, these remarks and these incidents have ruffled some feathers. Do you think this kind of behavior by you in particular, and even that of the other people, Utoni and Ms. Sioka, portrays what is expected of a lawmaker?
What do people understand by let's take it outside?
Some people feel
you could say that let's not disturb proceedings, let's have this discussion outside so that the important work of the House can proceed. That could be it. People should not just assume that there is an attempt at violence. That's, I think, a wrong precept to commence the engagement from. It could be, please, let's take it outside and we debate and discuss it there. It's not necessarily blue eyes and fists that will be going around. But to answer your question, no, look, we need as Namibians to begin to appreciate what we meant as LPM when we said that Parliament will have to become a lively place of debate, deliberation, and decision making. And what we have seen over the past 30 years is that the establishment has really made Parliament their own domestic living room, where they could sleep when they want, where they could play with their cell phones if they want to, where they could dress if they want to inappropriately, where they could yawn in the manner they want to, where they would have hairstyles and haircuts and all sorts of things in a way they wanted to, making it really seem as if it's their own private households, where you have the absolute freedom to be whoever you are, and forgetting that out there is an audience called the electorate that really wants certain things to happen from you. First, what is important is that Parliament must just be robust. And that robustness, Jemima, does not necessarily mean that you are robust in engagement with amendments or with motions, but in your own personal interactions as parliamentarians, you need to be robust with each other on issues to correct one another and to say to each other, look, Perhaps you are yawning too much, and perhaps you are giggling too much. It's unparliamentary. Whether you're a senior member of the ruling party or not, your conduct is a bit of a disturbance for me in terms of the decorum of the House. And so therefore, please, given this disease question that we have, behave differently. And she didn't take it a bit well. Eventually, later, we were teasing each other, and she was showing us fingers and say, "Hey, Swartbooi, you must behave," and so on. So in terms of the question of the Honorable Sioka, I think there has been a great misunderstanding where some thought that I want now to impose violence upon a female member who is also senior in age. Never the case. Never. I can rest you assured of that. In my engagement with her, what actually transpired was that a male colleague was saying something else, and I said, well, let's take it outside, and so on. Eventually, I later shared a joke with that very same colleague, and that was really the end of it. But look, Parliament will have days of commotion, and it will have days of boredom. And my experience from the previous Parliament, and I shared this with Marukwa and so on, is that there are days, Jemima, when Parliament looks dead, and just a single word from one member has the Parliament explode in a manner that you say, goodness, thank God I came here to Parliament today. I thought it was going to be boring. So that is the nature of Parliament. It can start off very slow and warm up, or it can start off very heated and slow and ease up. The question of the conduct, whether it is appropriate or not, is a matter that I will leave in the hands of the audiences to determine whether what we did was appropriate and so on. But what we must appreciate fully is that our Parliament is essentially a representation of the people of this country. The people of this country are not zombies per se. They are lively human beings that raise their voices, that scream, that shout, that have physical engagements, and that are people that quite strongly express their views and opinions at times and at places that you may think that shouldn't have been done. And so we bring as LPM to the House the anger, the anguish, and the frustration and the disappointment of 30 years of mismanagement, which we have felt hardest among those that are homeless, that are landless. And for that matter, we have had very clear instructions from our electorate that say, don't go get silent. Don't go get silent. Don't wait for others to take the initiative to intimidate you. Do it first. Test the strength of whoever you meet along the way. Show that you are ready to stand up for what you believe in. Engage robustly, regularly, openly, frankly, decisively, without retreating, so that you can see the strength of the enemy and see to what extent they are willing and able to make compromises for collaboration and cooperation. We think, with all of that which has transpired, that the Chief Whip of SWAPO, having been sent, according to him, came to us to really sit down and talk. We've delegated our deputy leader, who's also our Chief Whip, Honorable Sebeb, to engage with him. And I must commend the Chief Whip of SWAPO Party, the Honorable Hambuka, who said, look, we know each other. We know the agenda of LPM. There is not necessarily fundamentals that you have that we disagree with. Can we work together? And we said, no, we welcome to work together with SWAPO on issues that we agree on: housing, land, the fight against corruption. And we, of course, highlighted also that we understand that while we may want to work together on some of the issues, we know that we may not get all the necessary support from you on other issues. For instance, corruption, through which SWAPO Party has fundamentally been the key beneficiary. And so he has really, according to him, having been sent by SWAPO, started that engagement, and we said there are amendments we want to make to certain laws. There are motions we want to be discussed and debated. If SWAPO, in the course of wanting to have a dynamic parliament, rejects our motions and the motions generally of the opposition, if SWAPO rejects well-intended and well-crafted bills with a view to improve laws which are generated from the opposition, if they reject those, then clearly there will be a constant contestation, constant contest quite robustly on those issues, because we go in to articulate our values and our views and the vision that our people have enshrined upon us. And as leaders, where we can work together, we should work together. But we recognize that we need each other to achieve goals for improving the life of the people of Namibia, whether it is SWAPO or the other opposition parties and so on. So we have had a fruitful engagement, at least tentatively, I must say, because they have to give feedback. We have to give feedback to our structures also, at least for SWAPO party, to iron out some of the things. While people are focusing, Jemima, on the theatrics of what was highlighted in the media, there has actually been some work that we've been doing. We have had very good discussions with the UDF. We have had very good discussions with NEF, at least preliminary. We have had very, very good discussions with the CDV. We have had some significant engagement with NUDO on how to collaborate and what to do together, including to a significant extent with the PDM in terms of how we should move forward and how we should perhaps constitute the standing committee structures and so on and so forth. We must, however, say that the appointment of the president of NUDO to the position of deputy minister has created a significant degree of awe, because the relevant and crystal clear question that must be asked, which we have asked to the Secretary General of NUDO, the Honorable Gawan Denge, is, with whom will you be voting now? Because your president works for SWAPO, and you are here with the official opposition. On the important issues, who will you be voting for? Or they didn't have an answer. And of course, they will be sorting this matter out, I hope. But it is their internal matter. We, of course, had suspicion on the day of the Speaker's election who was the 64th member voting with SWAPO. I'm not mentioning names, but it seems the evidence is there, at least the prima facie, that there is a particular member whose name we know now and whose gender we know now, who voted and assisted SWAPO with the 64th vote for Kachavivi instead of SWAPO having 63 votes. Of course, SWAPO is trying to obtain the 2/3 that they lost by co-opting one of the parties into its fold, and it's quite interesting. Politics is the art of the impossible. So it would have been desirable had Mr. Kenkop asked perhaps the Honorable Venani to take a portfolio as perhaps Minister of Trade and Industry, or perhaps as Minister of Agriculture, and perhaps one other person, not me certainly. I mean, we have very fundamental arenas of difference which are just irreconcilable completely, even in the next life, I must say. So what happened. We have had a refreshing parliament start. It's the 7th parliament. Its values and its virtues must be rewritten. You can't impose on LPM the culture and the tradition, at least on a wholesale basis, of the other 6 parliaments that have passed by. You can't. You can't simply do it. It's irrational, it's unjust, it's unfair, it's unwarranted. We can't be seen as subscribing, at least entirely, to what was. We must rewrite the chapters and the chapter of this parliament as one that passes more bills, as one that really debates the issues that affect the people of Namibia as one that genuinely keeps the executive arm of state accountable.
Now, Mr. Swartbooi, to chip in,
Yeah.
I hear what you are saying about you telling Ms. Doreen Sioka to take it outside.
It was not her. I was saying it to another male member.
So you didn't say it to her?
No, it was not. While we were engaging, someone else was speaking next to her, and it was never to the Honorable Sioka. People just misunderstood this whole thing and took it out of context. No, it was never to the Honorable Sioka. It was to a male member who was interjecting, and I was saying, can we take it outside? Because when I realized this interjection, I thought perhaps we were disturbing the proceedings. That you want to take it outside, and that was really it. As I said, we were laughing about it later outside with the Honorable male member. So,
but Utoni Nujoma is also saying that he never swore it.
As we expected. As we expected, there are many things that Utoni Nujoma says
what
he has never done.
transpired?
Well, what we said in our statement is what transpired. I must say thank you to him, because he eventually picked up my phone and had the people return it to me. You must appreciate that Utoni, as I understood, he said a number of things, of course, denying what he said, which we expected. We have heard Parliament apparently will have an investigation. We expect that investigation to go the Swartbooi way. But the Honorable Utoni Nujoma, my good friend, is the very person who was the lead intimidator, the insulter-in-chief, the person that would humiliate other political party leaders when we were in Swartbooi. And he is getting a little bit of his own omen in a very dynamic way. He would just completely disrespect leaders of other political parties, even when these leaders were making sensible arguments. And he got into that habit without ever being stopped by the Swartbooi Party caucus or by the Prime Minister, who constantly stands with him shoulder to shoulder, Sarah Gungelwa Amadila. And so he thought, one way or the other, that because he is the son of Sam, that he possesses a particular space within Swartbooi and any other place that he occupies to be extra rude, to be extra arrogant, to be extra vulgar with other political parties. And the sad part is, even when they were insulted, other political party leaders would say, Utoni is just stupid. Leave him, he will never learn. He's a fool. They never engaged him fully, either inside or outside Parliament. And we, of course, are not in Parliament to have our direction determined by the whims of Utoni, never. But we are also not there to allow him to harass us in any way, to try to intimidate us in any way, or to be vulgar to us in any way. We will pay close attention to Utoni, from his dress code to whether he smiles or whether he sleeps or whether he smells alcohol. We will pay close attention to Utoni. Here we are dealing with a man who thinks he is in a kingdom and that he perhaps is an heir to the dynasty of the father, and that whoever occupies the chair of the presidency is not the right person until he becomes the person called the President of the Republic. I know from sources inside Swartbooi who consult with me regularly that they were pushing for the Honorable Utoni Daniel Nujoma to be the Vice President, and he didn't get it. He also wanted, of course, in the list, to be the Minister of Justice. He didn't get it. Why does he want Ministry of Justice? Utoni is one of the biggest individuals in the country who knows which ministry you can relax, according to him. Lands was not a relaxing thing. I saw a letter that he had written, I think in 1617, asking Kengob to place him to justice because of health reasons and so on. So he didn't get it. In fact, I must pity him I really do. Having worked with Utoni for 2 years, I really pity him. I really pity him. And so should the rest of Namibia, that he has been given the Ministry of Labor and Employment Creation. It will just be a colossal failure. It is not in the DNA of Utoni to be a laborious, industrious person. He doesn't know how to employ himself. He wouldn't know how to create employment for other people. And if he wants advice, I am ready in the interest of the country to sit down with him as a brother and to help him on ideas practically that would help to create jobs for the many young people. Of course, Jemima, I must also comment on the cabinet of the President of the Republic of Namibia, who got to that position through unconstitutional means. Oh my goodness, what a sad day. You look at Ipumbu Shimi, a very good man, I must say. I respect that man, very good man. But look at what happens to Bank of Namibia fellows. They are good to talk. They have good researchers, so whenever they have press conferences, they sound interesting. They issue research papers and opinions. And we thought Tom Alwendo could do much. Tom Alwendo came. Where is Tom Alwendo? No impact, nothing. Now Ipumbu comes. Ipumbu is a quiet fellow, very quiet. Under Ipumbu's watch, as a regulator of the banking sector, the types of things that happened to SME Bank occurred. We are very pleased nonetheless to have Ipumbu Shimi come in there so that we can have him answer on his role and the role of the bank, the Reserve Bank, regarding that dereliction of duty and possible complicity in the withdrawal of monies by very important persons, in the lack of oversight function, and how they allowed it to happen. That is one. So Ipumbu does not also have voting rights. They brought in Yvonne. Yvonne Downsap, very good lawyer, I must say, very good lawyer. She is a person that has no qualms of anyone, and we respect her, just as we respect Ipumbu. But her record at law reform is not very desirable. There's nothing to point to significantly. She doesn't have voting powers. Very important posting, no voting power. Mr. Kengo brings somebody that deals with military issues at the sea, in charge of the Navy. Goodness. The component of the military that is the largest is the army. You bring in somebody from a smaller component of the NDF, from the Navy, to now be the minister of defense. Very disastrous appointment, I must say. Very, very, very disastrous appointment. Again, no voting power. You have now the 23-year-old. We have no comment about her except to say congratulations. We support young people to be empowered. I know the father. Very, very good man, very, very, very good people. Honestly, I must say, we will be supporting and encouraging her to do her best. We are proud of her achievement. She must just not be absorbed by the system. You go to Karl Schledwein. Because he was brave enough to stop the fellows from further looting, they have removed him. We must say that while we do not have very strong agreement with the way in which Schledwein was managing the treasury, except for austerity, there was no way in which he was pushing the treasury to regenerate the economy. He was just cutting and cutting on spending and no innovative ideas to collectively get investment, to get the economy moving. That having been the problem, at least this man projected strength and some degree of competence to both the IMF and the World Bank, and would even out-debate qualified economists at IMF meetings. Karl Schledwein, he would do that. You now take him to agriculture, bringing in Shimi, so that in the last term, you can eat as much as possible. Because this one, you can harass and intimidate. And I hope Shimi does not allow himself to be harassed and intimidated by people. But I know, last time when they refused the license for SME Bank, he was almost physically touched by the then Minister of Trade, Hage Geingob. And they were arguing in the corridors there. So maybe, as a result of that, maybe he decided to grant the license. I hope this time, in the corridors of State House, he does not run around being chased by Gottfried, that he will be beaten up physically. I hope that that will not be his policy incentive. But they tried to put Schledwine at lengths to put him at loggerheads with us and hopefully to destroy Schledwine. I hope he is wise enough to appreciate that we can together resolve the land and agrarian reform question. He begins to sound progressive. We have seen the statement he has made in which he said that the dignity of the people that lost land must be restored. We appreciate the use of that vocabulary and the vision accordingly that he projects. We are there and we are reaching out to him to say, let's sit and talk about this important matter of land reform and so on. If you look at Lucia Ipumbu, my sister, the closest Lucia Ipumbu got to trade is Swartbooi Party Youth League Bryce. How she will handle the Ministry of Trade and Industry, God be with her. It is not a very good appointment. It is not an appointment that is in the interest of urgently seeking investment and projecting confidence in the eyes of both the local and international investors. It is a tall call for her. We'll again be there to cooperate and assist where we can in the interest of our country and so on. But generally, the appointments are terrible. Look at how Margaret Mensah was dumped like a cold potato from being Speaker of or Chairperson of National Council to being a backbencher. That is very sad. They even had a by-election so that this woman can come into Parliament, but only for her to be placed where she is now. Very, 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 very bad. Ngarusep dumped for reasons known to themselves. Yet again, at the core, Vice President, non-starter, just like Geingob is a non-starter. Prime Minister, non-starter. Deputy Prime Minister, non-starter. I thought at least Mensah would be placed as Foreign Affairs Minister, because Netumbo is old. When last did you hear a statement by Netumbo on foreign affairs and on important policy issues regarding foreign affairs? So Namibians must recognize that these appointments are of the most disastrous cabinet appointments since Sam Nujoma came. It is a disaster. You look at Erastus Utoni and you think, my God, there was a time that he was a good mayor of a small town. What has this man learned that he will now manage this huge ministry? And at least they should have had 2 deputies. But it's a disaster. Ministry of Urban and Rural, Ministry of Trade, even Finance, the Prime Minister's office. It's just a disaster.
Speaking about disaster, as a Landless People's Movement leader, what do you make of the coronavirus outbreak, and what are you as a party doing to help ease the burden on the landless people, especially the people in the corridors, the street children that have been taken off the streets?
Well, this is a global pandemic as announced by the World Health Organization, but you can see that Namibia, and particularly its government, is just not ready for the handling of this pandemic. You could see that there were people stranded at Hosea Kutako from 2 o'clock, and it seems that some of them have been taken to other places in the Hartab region. It's just a mess. What Kengop says versus what Kalumbi says versus what Haufiku says doesn't match. There's just a policy incoherence. The lockdown is not sure where the lockdown precisely is. Why do you only focus on 2 regions? Others were asking questions about funerals, calling from rural areas and so on. For us, what we have done is that we have informed our structures to please ask people to be conscious, and we have repeated the types of things that people need to do. Because some people probably also, because of the mistrust of SWAPO, do not trust this government. So we have had our people on the field really informing our sympathizers and our members that this is real, this is serious, don't joke about it, it's a global pandemic, it's not a SWAPO imagination. Stay home, wash your hands. If you find the symptoms, go to a doctor, self-isolate, and all of these types of things that we're talking about. What we have seen is that there is no coherent plan even to deal with the ordinary person on the street and what they may be losing. And we have resolved that we'll probably write a communication to the finance minister to say that there needs to be a package to be worked out. Of course, we understand the precarious conditions because of SWAPO party corruption regarding our treasury, that there may not be much, but whatever they can scramble, and I know the contingency fund is something they use like whatever way they want to use it, but it's for moments like this that a contingency fund would be most appropriate. That we then plan to after our consultations, write to Ipumbu, Shimi, to say that there must be things that you must do for the taxi driver, for the person that works at the hair salon. You've got to do something about the types of industries where people will have to go out and work, and if they do not work, there's no bread for them. What do you do with them? And we're proposing that there must be some mechanism of direct financial transfer, cash transfer, for these people, and they are not difficult to trace. They are available. If a diligent effort is made, such transfers could be made. We suspect that what we're proposing could be in a couple of billions of Namibian dollars. Of course, we know that SWAPO will obviously say there's no money and that will be the end of it. As it seems right now, they only focus on a lockdown. There is no additional plan, it seems, that is coherent, consistent, and charts the way forward. Even in Parliament, which at this moment is the weakest institution of state apart from the judiciary, they intended to keep on with an induction workshop until Shwameni said, but what are we doing here? There is a state of emergency declared by Mr. Kengop. Here we are gathered as more than 96 people. What is it that we are doing? What message are we sending? So I'm saying that the entire SWAPO structure, as it's constituted in the state institutions, is completely not been ready about it. Our fear really as LPM, and this is a very serious fear, Jemima, is that as the rest of the world sees a fizzling out of corona, particularly the Asians and the Western world, including the Europeans, Africans will see a late rise of this disease, and we are so fearful about it because that would mean perhaps the whole of April and May we could face our worst outbreak of the virus, particularly if these lackluster chaps of Kengop and himself continue to perform in this way that they're performing. Our view is lock down the country completely. Nobody goes out, nobody comes in. Full stop.
Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you very much, and please stay quarantined.
And that's all we have time for today on the Evening Review. Please join us again tomorrow. I'm Ashley Smith, the news editor of Namibian Sun.